A very, a very good afternoon. So the post-lunch session, I've been given the task of addressing the post-lunch session. It's a very difficult task, but I'll try my best. So my speech or talk is on discernment, and majority of my colleagues are from the government. So this is mostly tailored to the students. So I'll start with the apologies to my officials here. So thank you to ECA, IIIDEM, the CEO of Puducherry for this opportunity. So let me start with why this talk. So discernment, what do we mean by discernment and why do we need it? So there are two major dangers of information, misinformation in this day and age. The first is that you fall receptive to a false information. This is something we are all aware of. This is something we encounter every day in elections or in other contexts. But the second problem, which is something which is particularly relevant to the students here, would be that with this information overload, with this availability of AI, with a lot of narratives going around, it is the problem of disillusionment. There is a very real chance that we don't know what to believe in, and this turns into disillusionment, and this becomes nihilism at one point. So to address this second point is the intention behind this talk. So I'll slightly move through the slides. The slides are a bit dense, so I'd request you to listen to me, and I'll draw your attention to whatever is relevant. So I wanted to start with this. If the students here, you would have seen Game of Thrones. There is a particular episode in which Jon Snow is asked by Cersei, will you pledge your allegiance to me or to Daenerys, or will you stay neutral after the White Walkers war? And this is what he says. When enough people make false promises, words stop meaning anything. So if you keep lying to your people, to your public, to your friends, people will start believing in you and you lose credibility. And it is not just the personal credibility that is lost, it is also the credibility of truth itself. You start doubting everything, and you start doubting institutions, you start doubting your friends, and this leads to a larger problem, and this is what I would want to address through this slides. So what is this narrative that all of us are hearing very much about? So narratives, I'll just give you a short example. For example, when you watch a match, IPL match, you don't give a ball-by-ball commentary to convey it to a friend of yours. You will start with saying, I saw the match at my friend's place, this was the team, and this was the team that won, and this is the player who caused the win. So this is the story that we spend to convey the facts. So this is basically what is meant by a narrative. The technical explanation is the representation of an event or series of events. For example, you could have the same set of facts, the same set of events, characters, setting, theme, but the final discourse will change. If you can probably think of the 2011 World Cup, some of us will narrate the entire set of facts and we'll say Sachin was the man of the match and he was the reason behind the victory. Some of us will narrate the exact same set of facts and we'll say it was Gautam Gambhir who won us the World Cup. So this is where the discourse part would come in. So how do narratives get built? Obviously, reality is very, very complicated, and it is not as simple as what an AI can tell you, or it is not as simple that can be written or articulated. So some things are left out when we are narrating. We leave out the inconvenient parts, we leave out the difficult parts, we leave out the complex parts, we simplify it and convey it. This is not to impute motives to it, but this is how we function. As humans, we have a limited capacity and we have a cognitive load, and we simplify things to convey it to ourselves and also to understand and process things. So how do I relate this to information? So this was a very famous paper in 1962 called Bachrach and Baratz. So what they said was there is two kinds of power. The first kind of power is when somebody is able to get a decision made. This is very obvious and visible. The second kind of power, if you see, is the decision is not put for a decision. It doesn't come to the table itself. So for example, when you're querying an AI tool and gives you some information, how do you know what is being left out? We just take it to be true and we understand it as the complete truth about that question. So how do you know what is being left out? That what is being left out is very, very important, and it is also decisive of who holds the power, who gets to set the narrative. This is again a very famous political science concept. It is called the public sphere, which is defined by Habermas. If some of you are from media or information or from political science, you would be familiar with it. So Habermas says the public sphere is where public opinion is made, where people get together and they participate with reasonable access and they have no privileges. Everybody is on an equal footing and they get to publicly explain why they stand for a particular point. So he says in a public sphere is where public opinion is made. Now think of the information that we are putting out into the world. There is so much information, so access is not a problem. There is, with social media, at least nominally, there is no privileges on social media. Everybody has the same access. But what do you think about this concept of public opinion being formed on an equal footing? Do you think the same opinion, everybody's opinion gets the same footing on social media? So I would not say that's the case. So that is why I wanted to bring this here. So this is a speech I would recommend and urge all of you to read. It's called Truth and Politics. If you're interested in misinformation, if you're interested in any of this, you should be reading the speech. So what Hannah Arendt in 1967, what she said was, a lie is always easier to believe. If you see a movie, it's always easier to believe it, but real life is so much more messy and complicated that you would find it difficult to believe it. So all of these things put together, it causes us to question ourselves. It causes us to question everything, what we read, what our teachers tell us. So how do we proceed to action? How do we become constructive? We're constantly questioning everything. We're constantly questioning authority. We're questioning teachers, friends, the books that we read. How do we, arrive at constructive action? How do we stop analysis? How do we get away from the analysis paralysis? So the two extremes I've just tried to list out. One is we believe whatever is told to us, which is a very, very common problem. I hope that is not a problem with the students here. The next is disbelief in everything. So in between these two, what is the bridge? So again, I'm trying to relate this to something that Amartya Sen told us. So what he said was, we should not work for an ideal theory of justice. We should address injustice, and injustice is easier to identify. So whatever information is available to us, we should not look to, become experts on the subject and fully analyze it and then come to a conclusion. We should work with what is available. So there's a very nice term for this. It's called VUCA world. It's called volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous world. Within this constraints, how do you come to a decision? So I try to relate this to what Amartya said about injustice. This is again a very, very interesting research. I will leave it to you to draw inference from it. So a particular batch of people who believed in the concept of universal basic income, and a particular group who did not believe in a concept of universal basic income, and a bunch of people who believed in it and gave first person accounts of why it is required. So the test group, they were given this first person accounts and asked, one group was asked, now please put yourself in the foot of these people, in the shoes of these people who believe in universal basic income, and the second group was not asked this question. Whoever was asked this question thought deeply about it, because they were able to think about the other person's perspective and they changed their opinion more than the other group. So what this shows is, whenever we are able to relate ourselves to somebody else, whenever we are able to relate ourselves to some other person's opinion, perspective, lived experience, we change our opinions. So how do I tie this to information and misinformation and disinformation? Truth, learning, everything happens in a social setting. It does not happen within ourselves. It happens in a social setting where we interact with others, where we expose our ideas, where we argue why it is right, and that is where the truth is born. So again, discernment, this is what is the topic of my speech. So discernment is the capacity to meet narratives, information overload, and artificial intelligence through purposive reflection, so that judgment remains possible and action remains possible. So I would request you to relate it to the election scenario. For the youth particularly, one of the main reasons that the youth don't vote, if you look at any survey, see voter survey, any survey, it is that they don't believe in politics. They think politics is not something that good people get into. They think that surveys after surveys tell us that they don't believe in electing somebody. So what this happens is, it lets the wrong sort of representative to get into the political field. Only if there is a very strong belief in the political system, in its purposive capacity, in its constructive outcomes, will we actually take the effort to see what who our representatives are and take a very conscious call about it. So what is discernment? It's a very, very basic example. Knife in a surgeon's hand and knife in a thief's hand. You know which knife is good and which knife is bad. What it is not, it cannot be a checklist. I cannot tell you this is how you discern, this is how you think for yourself, that you have to find out for yourself. It can be assisted but not delegated. With AI, when you're using AI, you can only teach it how to discern, but the final call has to be yours. You can only talk to people about your doubts and questions, but the final call has to be yours. It cannot be automated. So what is it founded on? Again, the question comes, if you have so many doubts, how do you settle on something? How do you act on something? So this is something I thought of when discernment is also not open-ended. There are a few base emotions that has to be agreed on before discernment, we get into discernment. First is dignity of the individual. If there are political science students here, the dignity of the individual is a very Kantian principle, wherein it is said that everybody has to be treated equal. You cannot violate this principle when you are discerning. So everybody meaning it can be an individual, it can be a group of people. So whoever it is, they have to be treated and considered as equal. Next is constitutional morality. So what this means is it is a belief in certain mutually agreed upon forms. It is not based on outcomes. I cannot say I will talk to you only if you give me this outcome. I will talk to you with an open mind, irrespective of what the outcome will be, as long as it is respectful. So it is a very simple example of constitutional morality. Next is rationality. Our beliefs have to be founded on something. Evidence has to lead to policy. It cannot be evidence is separate, policy is separate. Views have to be founded on facts. So it has to be based on rationality. Next is deliberation. I think this is the most important for this setting, particularly at least the students. It is that discernment, judgment, knowledge, learning, everything happens when it is in a social setting. This is what every thinker, everybody we have touched upon, Hannah Arendt or Habermas, whoever it is, has said. Action, purposive, meaningful discussions happen in groups. So what does it mean for you as students? This is something I just wanted to briefly and quickly run through. So this is something that can help you in your day-to-day when you're discussing and learning. The first is that this is when to help you process information also, how to process the information that you're being dumped on a daily basis by a variety of sources. First is that you state your assumptions. When you say that you believe in something, when you're discussing, you state why you believe in it. That will provide the grounds for somebody else to agree with you or disagree with you in a very conscious manner. Second is think with peers. So this is the most important thing, and this is what a university setting offers much more than any other place, which is the ability to interact with similarly interested peers. Next is articulate the worldview. This again is the reason why I'm here. It is because this is an opportunity for me to articulate myself. Don't miss out on any opportunity that allows you to articulate, explain to the world why you think a certain way. Next is deliberate and good faith. So when somebody is discussing with you, don't question their motives, irrespective of whether it is good or bad. It is a very useless or a very unproductive way to argue. So don't question anybody's faith. Next is set aside condescension, be it teaching or be it learning. Never condescend to anybody, or never be sanctimonious to anybody, never speak down to anybody. Next is maintain integrity. What you speak and what you act on, there should be a bridge between the two. So this is the closing slide. With this again, I start from the first quote. Words lose their meaning when enough people make false promises. They lose it equally when enough people conclude that nothing can be known. This is just, you can read. So I'll end with this final thought that all of this, if you're able to think about it in the context of elections, what does it mean in terms of how you look at the information that candidates provide you? How you look at the information that political parties provide you? How do you process it? What information that you attach value to? So this, I think you would have some basis to think through these things based on this presentation. I hope it was useful. Thank you everybody for the opportunity.
Sir, thank you so much for a beautiful lecture on discernment. Any questions, any clarifications, please? I thought it will be difficult to listen to a lecture after lunch, but he made it in a very beautiful way. Thank you so much. Any questions, any clarification, please? I think all scholars have left after lunch. Yeah.
Congratulations, first of all. I saw your presentation. In one page, I saw that you were talking about the empathy while sharing the information or while debating. That's a very important point I found. And yes, these days we are forgetting this empathy, maintain this to the other, with other community or other people. But there is one scenario also that when in the especially in the WhatsApp context, when there is we all have this family groups and all. So you know what happened that time, we obliged to like share those information when someone shares in that family group some information, or whether it is misinformation or disinformation, so we also, we didn't check that time. We thought that, like our family group is saying that that must be true. And there is some emotional connection also, that there is some psychology behind it. And they share these things without checking the information, without, just to maybe because of that belief system, that culture here. So do you have any like a solution of this, or you can do some psychology also like behind it? So what do you say?
Broadly, an observation first, ma'am. The thumb rule is that when you see anything in your family group or in your resident welfare association group, that's the first information you should be checking. So that apart, it's you make a very valid point in that. So misinformation, disinformation works because it is relatable, because you feel already in a certain direction and it just adds to it. So that is why misinformation, disinformation works, because it's very convenient to believe in it. So once we are conscious of it, at least as students, we should be very conscious of this, and we should be very deliberate about what we choose to believe in and what we choose to promote. That's it, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else? No. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for the presentation.